All right. Well, the weeks keep coming, but they don't stop coming. Jarret's in the house.
Well, that's rather timely
That's a, yeah, that's
considering.
a,
That's my tribute. It's my tribute.
Okay, well that's good then. Yeah, no. Understandably. Unfortunately, there's no releases of Shrek coming out this week to coincide. If it were Disney, and if Disney was still doing local media, you could guarantee they would be re-releasing Shrek next week, like they did with What's Love Got to Do with It.
Well, that Shrek horror film's coming. Fiona.
What?
Yeah, you know how they did Winnie the Pooh and the mean one.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
a
right.
Shrek one coming called Fiona.
They're mining these fairy tales at the moment
When
because they've got three blind
Bambi
mice
as well.
and Bambi. Yeah, they're all happening at the moment.
Just waiting for Mary Poppins.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, that'll
Kill a
be
nanny.
interesting. That would be great. Yeah, it'd be like a bit of a crossover with the old Hammer, the nanny with Betty Davis.
but like, what if the premise is that Mary Poppins gets sent to a problem child type family, and in the end, there's nothing left for her but to get revenge.
Totally.
You know what? It doesn't even have to be a horror film. It could be like Problem Child.
Just yeah,
Yeah, true.
like Nanny McPhee, but she's incredibly.
Mate, the ideas, they just keep coming. They don't
See,
stop coming.
again, they need to put us in a studio so we can start greenlighting and getting these things, and an independent studio so that we can actually go into production on these films like immediately. We don't have to wait for these strikes to finish or anything of that nature.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think it needs to be like, you remember that sketch on I think it's on the Crackerjack DVD. Is it Crackerjack? Where it's the from the Sean McAuliffe show where it's the boardroom at Channel 9, but they're all the executives are shrouded in darkness and you can't see, and they're all just sitting there in silence, and then one guy goes, I don't know what the show's about yet, but it's hosted by Eddie Maguire. Silence for another
Yeah.
5 seconds, and then like, all right, let's make a pilot.
Yeah,
Well-
that sounds familiar. I think I have seen that.
Yeah.
Either Crackerjack or possibly even Bad Eggs.
Well, we drag
gentlemen-
you in every week to discuss,
Yes.
physical media, and I think you were really keen to chat about Ezra Miller this week.
Oh, well, yes, but I'll save that.
Oh, okay.
I'll start with Universal Sony Pictures Home Entertainment
Keep them waiting.
because they've got probably the superior definitely the superior superhero film this week. They've got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse happening on 4K Blu-ray and DVD. 4K has Dolby Atmos, and this thing is actually loaded with special features. You got like a filmmaker commentary, you got 9 featurettes, you got lyric videos. There's a deleted scene on there, and there's probably stuff I'm missing. I think there's even Easter eggs on there as well. It's a pretty comprehensive release, and again, on all the formats, which is refreshing.
Great film.
I definitely got to pick this one up. I actually did the digital premium VOD rental and watched it in 4K with Dolby Atmos, and it was fantastic. I think it's honestly better than the first, which was
pretty bloody good.
Which was amazing, yeah.
I do have a question though. When it comes to animation, is the 4K that much better than the 1080p for animation? I mean, it's already you would.
Definitely for the newer content for sure, because you've got Dolby Vision and HDR. And so what that does is it augments the color spectrum. So you actually get like, more vibrant, brighter kind of colors and distinction between them. And for a film like this, it's going to look spectacular with Dolby Vision. But definitely not so much probably for the older catalog titles. I mean, unless they're going in and doing HDR work, but that's that sort of borderline where you're going, well, is that going to change the way I remember it? They start toying with colors like Michael Mann did with the Heat 4K and countless other films. Thief, he's one for changing color palettes. But yeah, definitely I feel for the animated fare that's 4K. So yeah, but moving on, Universal Sony also have Renfield coming out. However, this one's only coming out on Blu-ray and DVD. And, that would be fine. And I'd probably buy the Blu-ray. But given Universal's track history in the States at the moment of releasing Megan, what else was there? Violent Night and The Black Phone. They dropped all these on Blu-ray and DVD, and then less than a year after their release, they're doing 4Ks. So I'm just going to kind of hold out because I reckon there might be a 4K in the works for that. And that said, if there is, it's probably going to have an Atmos track on it. And of course, Dolby Vision or HDR. So look, it doesn't hurt me to wait. I'm still going to pick up those other 3 that I've avoided buying for $8 so I can pay $40 just to buy them on 4K.
It is a cracker of a film, Renfield. I thoroughly enjoyed
Oh,
it.
I loved it. And it just surpassed my expectations because I thought it was going to just be sort of schlocky, slapsticky, and it was actually like gore fest and
Yeah.
hilarious. And Nicolas Cage was terrific in it. Like having seen him play in like Vampire's Kiss and then play in this as a vampire, he's fantastic. That I would love to see him do a serious vampire role now.
I think
But I'm sure he's got it out of his system.
I think I got COVID when that came out, so I missed the screening. So this is my chance to catch it. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh man, I think you're gonna love it. Absolutely, yeah.
Do you think Nicolas Cage has it in him to do a serious?
Yeah,
he's
like
loving
that?
loving the new trajectory.
Yeah, look, it's sort of hard to say. Yeah, and I don't know if he will have interest in doing it because he really wanted to play, the Gary Oldman Dracula role in Dracula, but obviously there would have been nepotism involved given that Francis Ford directed it.
But even if you go back and watch that, Gary Oldman's kind of, overacting is a little hard out in that thing, which is
absolutely.
But
it's
iconically, yeah.
Absolutely. It's like it's grand camp almost, but that's an incredible film that's aged incredibly well in terms of time. I think I've enjoyed that movie more now than I ever did when I saw it on theatrical video.
It's the experimental, practical element of it, I think, that holds it up well. Like, the miniatures and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. It's sort of like that last sort of, generation of cinema where everything was done so practically and optically instead of all purely with CGI. And it just looks incredible.
And let's not forget that in HD, all those scenes of Lady Frost running around in her 90, like things are really highlighly.
Hey, Ben, in 4K with Dolby Vision, it looks spectacular. Hopefully Sony might give it a local release. I mean, the 4K did come out some time ago, but they just reissued it for an anniversary. I think it must have been last year, maybe. So I got the Steelbook from there, and then it's Dolby Vision.
That score is the best.
It's all round. It's an incredible film. Possibly the last great Francis Ford Coppola film, maybe.
Or you didn't like Twixt.
Or Godfather Part 3, perhaps. Actually, that preceded it. That just preceded it. So, so anyway.
Right now, trying to find that Steelbook.
That Steelbook. Now, the other release that's really interesting, I'm going to get Ben to weigh in on this one. So, Universal Sony from the Studio Canal catalogue are releasing Sam Peckinpah's Cross of Iron this week on 4K Ultra HD. And it's a 2-disc set. One being the 4K Ultra HD with special features on there, and then a second disc, which is a Blu-ray, but not with the feature, with just a bunch of special features as well. And so it's a pretty comprehensive and amazing edition. It's going to retail for under $30 in stores. However, at the end of the month, Imprint are releasing Cross of Iron in a 3-disc set. They announced this like months and months and months ago. And now Studio Canal's kind of come in and cut their lunch by putting this out and getting it out earlier and getting it out at a really cheap price point. Because the imprint one, I think the recommended retail is around $90. And the only big distinction between this is that the imprint one has a few more sort of, featurettes and documentaries and a grindhouse version of the film, which is the exact same cut of the film. It's just taken from a beaten up 35mm print. Now, Ben, enlighten us as to how this actually happens, that a label like Imprint can sub-license a film from Studio Canal, announce it, set a release date, and then Studio Canal can just kind of come along and release their own version ahead of the Imprint one and considerably less. How does that actually happen? And where does that leave a business like Imprint, who are going to be putting out something that's 3 times the price with marginally extra features?
Furious.
It's a bit of a dick move on Studio Canal's part, really. But the international guys don't care too much about what the local guys, have done, and if they've sub-licensed it, they kind of like, well, we're putting it out. We don't really care. And it's the attitude of, it's not just Studio Canal, it's all the studios, really. They, as far as they're concerned, you're not actually the license holder. They've just sub-licensed you the right, but doesn't seem to be exclusive. It's just a weird,
crazy.
It's weird thing that they have, and I'm sure it's in their contract somewhere in the fine print that lets them do it.
But is this where like someone like via Imprint can now renegotiate their contracts and make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again?
I don't think so. Those contracts are pretty boilerplate and they don't really change them. What they could do if they hadn't already spent all that money and produced the actual discs is swap it over. They go back to studio, which it happened to us at Monster a while ago. They sub-licensed Dracula Prince of Darkness to us, even though it was out through Shout Factory. Like they just a miscommunication in the office somewhere, and really kind of a lack of caring. I think internationally,
It's
and
crazy.
we just swapped it out. They just redid the contract, and we replaced it with another title, and that's the kind of real. It's like a 3-year post.
How diplomatic of you. Other podcasts would be like ranting and raving right now, but you're just bringing some logic and some common sense.
Reasoning. It's crazy to think our market is, such a small market, and to have 2 releases of, I won't say obscure because it's not an obscure film, but it's a film that's not necessarily going to fly off the shelves, and to have 2 releases coming out a fortnight apart. And there's not going to be enough consumer demand for, people will see an under $30 price point and go, look, that's good enough for me, rather than spend the $90 to get a little bit of extra stuff. Unless it's your favorite.
It's also the type of film where the fans that are expecting it know both are coming. It's not like they're unaware of another. Like they're the kind of fans that are across this type of thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't know, how long ago do you reckon that Imprint announced it?
Oh, Imprint announced it probably like at least 90 to maybe 120 days ago, at least 3 or 4 months out, I reckon. And this Studio Canal release literally just kind of came out of the blue maybe 5 weeks ago. It just started turning up on pre-order pages, and everyone just assumed, or maybe they'll cancel it because there's been a miscommunication or something. And no, it's going to market and it's in stores this week.
There is also another caveat in those contracts that say that you have to release the film within 6 months of signing.
Right.
If Imprint are past that date, they theoretically could be in breach. I know a lot of the time, especially when you're dealing with a release the size of the Imprint one, they're dealing with a lot of outside producers who are producing that extra feature content, and those guys don't always deliver on time.
No, you're right.
Things get delayed.
Absolutely. One of the extras is like a feature-length documentary as well that they've licensed, which is the first time it's going to be on disc, and it's from like a historian, expert on both the film and Peckinpah's work, and he's the one I think that had the 35mm print, so they've done the scan from that. So there was a lot of background work that's gone into it, and no doubt it's taken time.
Imprint also have the reassurance of fans that are collecting the numbers.
Yeah, but I also feel like that's kind of starting to drop off a little, just because, despite the fact that they're great releases, there's just so many of them that it is hard, and it is such a wide breadth of content that, you're not probably going to have the same people want to pick up a copy of, Body Parts that maybe are picking up one of the 50s classic Hollywood movies, or even Molina, an Italian film. It is. It's almost like they need to do sub labels within the Imprint label just to cater to certain crowds.
I mean, look, it's also the reality is too, is that Imprint usually, when they release a special edition like this, 6 months, a year later, they will release a standard edition without all the bells and whistles. In this case, they're just coming out around the same time.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're right. It's true. Very true.
You can wait and pay $26 for the cheaper one, or you can get the fancy pants and pay your like the steelbook price, like that Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula on Amazon right now, $72 for that 4K.
There you go.
No, that's weird. Blu-ray $72. 4K $52. Well, there you go. Ben's getting the 4K.
Get the 4K, but make sure you read that product description carefully, because Amazon are the absolute worst. On a side note, just a humorous side note, I did order recently it was a 4K from Amazon, and because the 4Ks that are, or any of the discs that are coming from the UK or the US, they'll come from there in a mass lot, and then they kind of get sorted locally and then posted out locally from one of Amazon's distribution centers. And sometimes the labels get messed up. And it's happened in the past that I'd ordered a Blu-ray and I received a bike chain. But a couple of weeks ago, instead of receiving, I think it was the Creepshow 4K, I received a pair of men's hiking shoes.
Did they fit?
No, they were like monstrous size. They were like size 13 or something. They were like gigantic, like Bigfoot shoes. But interesting note, they actually retail for around $300.
Nice.
So, it might be one return that I'm not doing to Amazon in a hurry. Hello, eBay. Okay, so some more releases, gentlemen. Let's get on to Roadshow because that will take us to Ezra Miller. From the Warner catalog, The Flash is coming out. Another superhero film this week. The Flash coming out in 4K, Blu-ray, and DVD. Good news for Blu-ray fans. You'll get the Atmos track on the Blu-ray as well as the 4K. So if that's got you on the kind of deciding point, you can probably settle with the Blu-ray. But of course, 4K is always better. Now, this thing's interesting in terms of special features because it's not like they got Ezra along to do an audio commentary, but strange that they didn't get the director along to do a commentary, given how much, lead time they've had with it. But it does have a ton of featurettes. I think there's something like 10 featurettes, but mainly marketing fluff that run for 3 to 5 minutes and deleted scenes on this one as well. But I imagine it's going to be a pretty big release. And there's a steelbook coming out exclusive to one of the specialist retailers out there, one of the few retailers.
The irony is that the movie isn't Flash.
I didn't mind it. I thought it was all right, but admittedly, my bar for DC films is pretty damn low.
Yeah,
and I mean,
it was a nothing movie. Like it was.
Yeah, I think the cameos are what does it, which is kind of sad because that's like the worst of Robert Altman's films. If there's a bad Robert Altman film, it's still good because there's some great cameos.
Apparently, Nicolas Cage had no idea he was cameoing in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I thought that was I read an article about that recently, which is hilarious. So yeah, that one's coming out. Then also from Roadshow, they've got Joyride coming out, which pretty much just came and went super fast.
Not the John Dahl Joyride.
No, I wish it was a remake of the 2001 John Dahl, also known as Road Killers. They released
this one's been produced by someone big. I can't remember. Is it Paul Feig or Will Ferrell or someone like that that's produced it?
It would make sense if it was Paul Feig, wouldn't it? Because he's all for female ensemble films. But yeah, this one's coming out on Blu-ray.
Until those allegations come out. It always happens.
It's always the case.
If Joss Whedon has taught us anything, it doesn't matter how much of a champion you are of the female anthology series or anything like that. The stories are going to come out.
That's right. That's the reason you're in it with the ladies.
Something like that's going to happen. Like he yelled at me on set. He's a bully. Time to cancel him. That's it.
Well, that one's loaded with special features, surprisingly. There's 5 featurettes. There's a sing-along. I haven't seen this film yet, but there's a sing-along video because I believe the cast may have a scene where they sing WAP, that song?
WAP?
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's a choreography. So they must do a little dance sequence, a choreography featurette for WAP on there and deleted scene and trailer. So it's quite hefty. But yeah, Blu-ray and DVD, which is surprising because this is a Roadshow release and they're doing a Blu-ray for it. And given that it didn't do strong box office.
It was produced by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg.
There you go. Well, he has his hands in most. I watched a screener for a film the other night that we won't be playing at Monster Fest called Cobweb. Now, this film was one that they Lionsgate dumped out the same day as Oppenheimer and Barbie in the States. So, of course, no one saw it. They put no money into marketing it. They released a trailer 4 or 5 weeks out from the theatrical, but the trailer went viral. Everyone was excited for it. It's a very average film. Starts off great and then ends completely differently. But yeah, Seth Rogen and his cohort produced that also, which was interesting. First horror film that he's produced. So,
and they've just done Ninja Turtles, like they're hot right now.
Well, on that note, I will mention now Ninja Turtles is, I think, it opened last week in cinemas here in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually coming out on home entertainment November 29th. So there's a date for that already.
We may have Peter Laird on the show. Just FYI, I interviewed him yesterday and just waiting for permission to put it on the show.
Oh, well, there you go. Excellent. Something to look forward to. I don't know if there's going to be a 4K Blu-ray and DVD at this stage. I haven't seen the details.
The movie's excellent. The movie is excellent.
It looks super weird. Like, I want to see it.
These new ones. Umbrella have the Scratch and Sniff original movie out.
Yes.
Yes. And I believe, is it in November? Umbrella's going to do a triple pack that's got 1, 2, and 3, and it includes
Let me tell you this.
Smell-O-Vision or Stinker-Vision version.
So when I spoke to
one.
Peter Laird, and for people that don't know, he's the co-creator of Ninja Turtles. First thing out of his mouth when we had this conversation was, I still think the 1990 film is the best Ninja Turtles movie.
Awesome.
But this new one takes a leaf out of the Spider-Verse, right? So it's the animations are done to look like a textbook scribble in high school.
Yeah, right.
But
it looked weird to me. It looked like I liked it because it looked engaging, but it almost looked like claymated.
Yeah, it's
so super odd. It looks like an acid trip of a movie.
Hilarious, engaging. All the voices are real teenagers recorded in the same room together, so there's dynamic.
I don't know if I can handle that. That sounds too young.
I need Corey Feldman
to do my.
So good.
No, well, that November 29th, so I'm excited about that. Other news, you guys will be pleased to hear that Universal Sony Pictures Home Entertainment are going to do 4K for Gran Turismo locally on November 15th. So 4K Blu-ray and DVD. Obviously, it's done on the dollars at the box office, so it's warranting a 4K release. And again, another specialist retailer out there, Black and Gold, are going to be doing a steelbook for that. So if you're interested in steelbooks, you can pick it up there.
Are they going to do one with the game and a model and the whole?
No, not yet, unfortunately. We're going to have to wait for the imprint release, which will be coming out 2 weeks later. The last one I want to mention is Equalizer 3, which you lads saw. And Ben, I believe you were a pretty big fan of this one.
We both
I
were.
know, that was
you were into it as well.
I liked it more. Yeah.
I liked it more. I enjoyed it. I just found that it really just went from A to B. There were no
it's a simple movie.
There were no side bits,
that's the reason I liked it.
I like it when I was describing it to a mutual acquaintance of ours, Jarret Grant Hardy, or I guess all three of us know Grant.
Mm-hmm. I
said it's like if you watch American Werewolf in London late, and you've seen a bunch of other.
You said that to me too.
Yeah. If you watch it late and you've seen a bunch of werewolf movies already, when you watch that one, you're like the transformation happens and you're like, oh great.
When's he going to fight crime?
Yeah. It ends. Yeah. When does he fight crime? No. That's just it.
It's just it's an origin story. And it begins and ends.
Yeah.
This ain't no wolf cop.
Oh, shit. Well, that one's coming out in December. So they're getting that one out in time for Christmas in case you want to stick it under the tree. That one's coming out December 13th. And then again, no update as to whether we'll be getting 4K, but I imagine we will because Universal Sony did 4K for the last film. I mean, the first film actually came out through Roadshow and it might even be out of print now.
Can I say
I had to
something?
get the 4K from the States of that one.
I only just thought about this the other day and it's a weird similarity, but Equalizer 3 and Mafia Mama are very similar.
Okay. Yeah, right.
They are both set in Italy. Both have the same characters in the background. Both play into the Italian tropes. Both, obviously mafia movies. But I'm like, these are really similar. And I don't even think Mafia Mama's got a release date yet. That's just
Is that like how Analyze This and The Sopranos were really close together?
Kinda.
I have a feeling that Mafia Mama, I know that it was the Reset Collective that had licensed it for Australia, but I'm thinking maybe it was handled by Maslow Entertainment Theatrical. I'm not 100%. But on that note, I was just thinking last night that there's been no release date announced for Infinity Pool locally either for home end. Had a theatrical. I mean, it's had a Blu-ray in the States and now a 4K has literally come out. This was even worse. It's worse than Universal releasing, a Blu-ray and then less than a year later. These guys released a Blu-ray and then 3 months later released the 4K. And they did the same with Crimes of the Future as well. But anyway, the 4K has just come out and it's about to hit in the UK, but still no local release announced for it. Which is a shame. That's the kind of movie that will make money on home entertainment. It's cult cinema. So yeah, it could be stuck in the same sort of pool as Mafia Mama. But funnily enough, I do want to go back to Cobweb, which I mentioned before. As I was watching the film, I noticed quite a few similarities, not necessarily in the actual film itself so much as the production design to Barbarian. with Cobweb, and I was like, oh, this and this and this and this. Jumped on IMDb after and found out, yes, it was the same producers, and yes, it was shot in Bulgaria as well. And I wonder if it was shot around the same time, because I could have sworn some of the same sets were used. And I wonder if same producers are involved with Mafia Mama and Equalizer. Cost effective.
Well, Mafia Mama is almost more violent than Equalizer 3. Like, it's gory as all hell.
Wow. I'm hanging to see that. Absolutely hanging.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I have to keep my eyes peeled, because no doubt maybe it's destined for digital and possibly no physical locally, which is a damn shame. Yeah. But anyway, gentlemen, that's all I've got for you this week. So until next time.
Oh, so much for Ezra.
The less said, the better. I've got a feeling
we've built that up over 2 weeks.
Well, I'm hoping Imprint will put out a definitive edition of the Flash, and you could have like a supercut featurette that just has Ezra throttling his fans. That could be
pissing on them,
and it could
like
even have a fan commentary track from people that have had experiences with Ezra. It could be.
That'd be a great commentary track.
So we'll do that one in 2 weeks when the Imprint release comes out.
I thought maybe that's why there is no director's commentary, because he was given strict instructions, like, you just can't talk about Ezra. But how can I do the commentary and
He's
not
the lead in the
We
movie.
need to talk about Ezra.
Yes. Yeah. Or maybe there was a commentary recorded, but then it had to go through legal, and then legal's gone, can't. And then they looked at it, and it was like literally 3 minutes of dialogue, and the rest just dead silence.
Well, it's because he kept attacking them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally.
Well, we got there.
Someone sedated. Anyway, yes. So until next week, gentlemen, stay physical.